or an interest, if you're interested in it, and I think Jaime will talk about it later. So yeah, there are two parts. Lannang stores in Mars, so the second part will be Phuket Kado. Okay? All right, next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Lannang stories first. Next slide. So Lannang Stories is a startup project, and the main goal of this storybook series is to create a series of storybooks in Lannang-uè. Okay, and importantly, if you see the screen, it says Lannang-uè in all its forms or styles. So the eventual goal is to have books in different kinds of Lannang. Like, so we have for this series, it's like mixed, right? It's a mixed Lannang where it just used in Manila. But we eventually want it to be, for example, in Davao, like Davao Conyo, like kind of way, or something like that. Or yeah, other kinds of Lannang as well. So we're not going to be just focusing on one kind, but many kinds of Lannang. So yeah, that's a project. We really want to make people want to use Lannang and make people more interested in the use of Lannang at home from a very early age so that the language will survive. Okay? Alright, next slide. Yeah, so that's our website. If you haven't gone to this website, our books are actually available as ebook format already on our website with audiobook, so you can, if you're really interested, you can just go off our website, lannangstories.com, and then you can click on the books, and then there's going to be a free copy, PDF copy there, all right? So, yeah, next slide. So as you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this idea of Hokkien for Lannang-uè, not just one kind of Hokkien, but there's like, it's a spectrum. Like, on one end, we have a very old sounding, traditional, or conservative style of Lannang-uè, right? As indicated in B. But then there are also people who use a mixed style of Lannang-uè, right? It's almost like Tagalog and English should do Taglish, right? Or Bisaya, and then you have like Konyo, right? On the other hand. So that's the reality. We're not living in a world where everyone speaks in just pure Hokkien, right? We live in a reality where people speak different types of Lannang-uè across the spectrum. Okay, next slide. And because of this, that's the whole mission of Lannang Stories, is to create books, or story books across that spectrum. So we know that there's not a lot of stories already told in Lannang-uè, and the fields that tend to focus on Lannang-uè are those that focus more on the conservative or pure style. So we're not the first ones to develop textbooks in Hokkien, not textbooks, storybooks in Hokkien. I think there are a couple, but they tend to focus on this one kind, or the pure Hokkien style, right? And a lot of the material for actually in Hokkien, if you want to think about Hokkien in a more wider sense, there are a lot of textbooks, a lot of storybooks in outside of the Philippines, like in Singapore, they already have storybooks in Hokkien, but it's not the same kind of Hokkien that we speak in the Philippines. So we wanted something that is more uniquely ours. All right? Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, we want a language that can continue to be used for and for a community to survive. We really need places to make the language legitimate. This is the reason why we have board games in Lannang-uè, and we have TikTok videos and songs that we're trying to make enjoyable for people by by using Lannang-uè. So if you visit our TikTok page actually for the Lannang archives, you will see videos of us trying to use Lannang-uè to maybe capture some kind of trend, right? So if you're interested, you can go to that, to our TikTok and our Instagram. Anyway, the idea here is that we want to make Lannang-uè like legit. So we want to use Lannang-uè in as many places as possible. So not just storybooks, but also board games, songs, and even movies actually. There's so these stories derived from Lannangs, by Lannangs, and for Lannangs. Next slide. So yeah, just want to give you skip through this slides a bit quickly. I just want to show you the process of creating Lannang stories. We went through the drafted process, right? We then eventually ended up with one style that you see in the storybooks. Next slide. You know where this is, guys? That's like in Binondo, right? As a Chinatown, right? So we went through multiple iterations before we reached the final style. Yeah, so as you can see, there's a storyboard and an illustration stage, and then next slide, please. That's for this one for EMSA, the other book. We were drafting it. Yeah. Next slide. So as you notice, I get who here went to the intermediate Lánnang-uè session? Raise your hands, please. Intermediate Lánnang-uè. Session A, earlier, right? So if you notice, the spelling that you guys are using is quite standardized. It's basically Lannang markography, which the storybook and all of our materials, actually the program, are using. So Lannang markography just basically means Lannang spelling system, right? Okay, so it's basically based on my research that ended up the past 7 years or so. It's a way to kind of make Lannang-uè writing or spelling Lannang-uè more accessible for everyone. So if you're interested, you can go to lannangarchives.org/orthography. If you're interested in how to learn how to write in the spelling system that we developed, please go and check this out. All right, next slide, please. And as mentioned earlier in Lannang yesterday, we're trying to promote the use of Lannang orthography because there's actually no standard system. If you actually pay attention to the major systems like Ayok and Mewaji, it's kind of outstandard, meaning that it doesn't really capture the variation that we have in the Philippines. So I remember yesterday we talked about, how to say Figueroa in Lannang, and then some of you say Zhang Hiak, some of you said Zhang Hiak, right? If you use the old systems in Taiwan or in Singapore, they don't really have separate spellings or separate sounds for Hiak and Yak. But for Lannang orthography, we captured that with different spellings, right? So it's really simple, and I think for those who took the Hokkien class earlier, hopefully that it sounds more intuitive. It's like PA in Mandarin, right? It's what you see is what you get. Is other systems, they don't use that. So what I'm trying to say here is we adopted this system and we're trying to implement it into the storybooks and hopefully in the future textbooks in Lannang. All right, next is, so currently we have 2 books, and I'm happy to announce that we're working on our 3rd book already, which is targeting, thank you. We're targeting younger children, so it's going to be simpler, and we're trying to experiment a new format. So, Lannang orthography or Lannang-uè, Mandarin, and English. So it's going to be like 4 years, and it's going to be multilingual, basically. Guys, but we'll hear more about it once we announce it officially. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We're currently working on books 3 and 4, but currently we have books 1 and 2. All right, next slide. So this is a demo of the website that I said earlier, right? So there's like a player, a interactive playbook here, where you can flip through the book, and then you press the audio, listen to audio file, and you can play it while you're reading. And it's free. So you can do that if you really want to learn. And then at the end, the last page of each of the storybooks, we have a vocabulary page there, right? So we have a Lannang-uè word, popular variants, and then we have an English translation. So hopefully that will help you capture both the vocabulary for an outlook. All right, let's move on. So one way in which we, at least for Lannang archives, we did heavy story picks, but then It's one thing to have these storybooks, it's another thing to share these storybooks and disseminate it to people, right? To make people more aware of it. So, at least for us in Lannang Archives, it was we have interactive storytelling sessions. So we in this format, so we go to different schools, and then we follow this format. We have an interactive activity first. We have the vocabulary introduction. You have a part of the lecture, vocabulary review, and then a discussion question. So actually, we're going to demo it. I'm going to demo it right now. Next slide. So we always start with this. Lánnang-uè. What is this Lánnang thing? Right, there's a cortex one word basically. Alright? Can you guys read it? Let's read it. 1, 2, 3, go. Alright, very good. Next slide. So what is it? If you see this, what
Thai.
Thai, or what else? Huh? Tami. What else? I hear Thai. I hear Tabi. What else? Jijia, or to cook. Alright, so next slide. The right answer is Kami. So something like that. And we do it for multiple rounds just to help kids more to be more engaged. And then next slide. Then we start with the storybook, right? We show them this one first. It depends on the school. So if the school is Mandarin speaking or they teach Mandarin, we also offer, next slide, a Chinese translation right after. Right? So it's like this. Storybook session is Hokkien or Lánnang-uè in Mandarin, depending on the school's appetite. Alright? Okay, so how about we demo it? Okay, so I'm going to read, can you go ahead and previous slide, please? So, for example, I'm going to go down. This is a little bit awkward because that's the stage. PTK boss kết hợp với số tài của sự kết tạo đặt yêu thuê bị làm được. So a very distinctive feature of this storybook is that we color-coded words that are derived from Tagalog and English, right? Because it's harder to identify as feedback from our previous books. So yeah, and then Lánnang-uè being you. So there's number 1, right? There's a number 1 in a circle. That's the vocabulary for that page. The key word, is being you. We want them to learn about the word being you, which is friend. Okay. Kung being you le ano siya, siya. Even niya si Johnson ka pa ini. So something like that. All right. Okay. Next page. Okay. So who wants to do the Mandarin version of it, just for practice? Volunteers. Mandarin? Oh, Langde, volunteer, no. Oh.
在一个不太远的地方，有个城市叫 Figueroa，有两个好朋友住在那儿，他们叫 Jackson 和 Jaime。城市里的人很生气，因为他们一样都是蓝呐。一个社区和夜空都是的星星是同样的特别。
Alright, so let's get kind of the thing in. You did it interactive for our students. Guys that can kind of web first, and then you like that it to school allows their Mandarin. Alright, next slide. So after every page, we hear the TV or the vocabulary, being you, and if the school wants us to move in Mandarin, say Tomio. Right? And then being you, a friend. Alright, next slide. And then after all the pages, right, we then have this let's review thing where we go through all the vocabulary again in a gamified manner. So, look, I go, let's review. Dai, like, un, it. Right. Okay. Next page. So it's like this. Baktu, baktu samia. What is baktu? I. So because we're doing this with kids, you have to make it all the right pattern. So they're gonna connect. So the harp is in a circle, is in a square. And they'll raise their hands and they'll say, oh, this he bounce you I. All right. Next slide. And the answer. And then we have a discussion question. Okay, so we're going to test Marvin's students. Who wants to read this sentence? And who here stated to read in Hokkien already? Anyone? Volunteers?
Ní tờ là ô bát hoa địa tạc sắc ấy.
Archa. Okay. So very good. Okay, let's do a prologues. Yeah. So we asked them to be able to read about Italo, but Fuario, Archa. Alright? Where have you seen the red arch before? That
你在哪里看到红色门拿粉？
Alright? So next slide. Then we asked them to talk and discuss, and then the next answer, I saw it in Right. And then that's that. So, any don't want to read this slide. So our volunteers we did this in like I think 7 or 8 schools in Manila.
You're trying to do it in other parts of the Philippines like Davao as well.
Yeah, so next slide. So we got like really good feedback from some of the people who are in charge of the schools, right? I think for the most part it's positive. There's like these kids were really interested in the storybooks. We found that it's better to have smaller groups because the larger groups kids can get really rowdy and you'll be like jumping all around and yeah, it's just very noisy. So smaller groups or circle groups tend to be better for this type of story builder session. Next slide. Yeah, even the library supervisors in ICA or Imagine Instruction Academy Manila found it really helpful in terms of vocabulary learning. So if you haven't gotten the book, please shameless plug, put it in the back and get more of our puppies. Alright, next. Actually, go back one slide. There's one thing that we actually wanted to emphasize for our future books is that starting from books 3 and onwards, we want to focus on values, right? Or in, I don't know what's the equivalent of this, Lannang-uè or Lannang-uè, that is one tradition. So we're going to be starting with values like kyukji, for example, how we say money, and other traditional values that we have. So that's kind of like the goal that we have for books 3 was part of 5 and onwards, right? So it's character development, but in the context of the community. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. So that's our book. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this was in Ateneo in Manila. So it's interesting because we have a mix of people. We have done these talks to kids who are very professional, who've done it well already. And then we also have adults who do have zero background in that. Like it's kind of like an interesting experience, I guess, for people of all ages. Next page. This was in Manila, Tramuros. Next page. Right, so next page, sorry. I have a skip song because you just kind of have to skip a little bit. Yeah, skip. Yeah, so here is so I said earlier there were a lot of positive comments about Lannang stories, but then from the feedback we got in schools, we found that at least in the context of Manila, people and teachers and schools, people prefer conservative style Lánnang-uè or pure Hokkien, if you want to put it that way. And we also want more materials for different reading levels and different story arcs and different characters as well, right? And but they really appreciate the model-label approach. So what we're actually planning to do for books 3 and plus 4, as I mentioned earlier, is we're going to add a model-label format where we have Lánnang-uè, the characters in Hokkien, and then Mandarin, and then Pinyin, and then English. So it's gonna be like 5 lines, or at least 5 lines for every line. So it's gonna be really multilingual. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use conservative Hokkien, but then in the instructions, in the activities, we will use mixed way. Right, so it's gonna transcribe for the people in the market, in schools. All right, next. So these are the schools that we went to. We went to school, Fit Cross Shopping Center, Shanghai Shek in Manila, Higa, Christian, Kaisla, Kazazee, Mamanamari. So these are schools we can see so far. If you're interested in having us help you guys give us private county session, please do approach Kenny Farvell in wearing this shirt, the TLA shirt. All right, so yeah. Next. So yeah, so keep part of our community development. If we really want to support us, all the profits, they actually put it back to developing prosperity. So the more we need to get, the more faster we introduce these storybooks, mostly those are Carlos Sapphire. All right, so if you haven't gotten a copy, please do get some when you leave the auditorium. All right. Okay, so next page. So now I'm going to give the platform to Misha Hwang, who will be talking about the board game. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So I'm Misha Hwang. So I am the what do you call this? The one who made the tiamars, as you could see actually in our booth a while ago. So this project, we have the next slide. This project actually was brought about with the idea that we wanted to make Lánnang-uè not just accessible in schools and TikTok, but also even when we play games. Because you know how like Lánnang-uè, for me growing up, we associated with Lánnang-uè, le malan, le kong haiwè. So I wanted to change that experience for a lot of people, but making it a more positive. So we made this Lannang-uè vocabulary game, and it's about our very favorite family business. So how this strategy goes is that we do have team-based board games. We have 2 teams where there are 2 family businesses, and you have 2 talkers. And then you need to be, well, pretty brushed with your Lannang-uè. So let's move on and discuss about it. So when we did this project, we actually started this. This was a project born out of the 2024 Symposium. When we were doing it, everything was on an academic discussion. So we wanted to make something that was really fun, and so when we did this, we wanted to collaborate basically with Lannang Archives and So Asian Comics. So I'd like to get a hands here. Who here is familiar with So Asian Comics? Can I have a raise of hands? So Asian Comics, folks? Okay, a few. So if you do not know what So Asian Comics is, and I would plug them right now. So they are a Lannang-based, they are a Lannang comics, actually, an online comics talking about the lives of Lannang lives in social media. So please follow them. So basically here, the character that you see here is actually the child of the owner. This is our very own So Asian Comics like owner, Cedric. So we did this session last year with Lannang Symposium, and we found that this was not just only like a game that was fun for kids or like college students, but actually even middle-aged, young to younger folks who wanted to play with this. So if you could see here, this is the Atimea. She was trash talking during our game last year. So this Lannang-uè, we wanted to encourage people to actually like dig deep into their Lannang-uè vocabulary. So we wanted to focus on letting people learn more about like, if you do not know how to speak the grammar, at least focus on your vocabulary and all that. So can we move on to the next? So these are the different characters we have. We have the Tauke, our very own tauke, and we have definitely an auntie, and we have a child owner. So in one team, we would have these people. So the tauke would be the one giving the clue, and then the auntie and the child owners, everyone in the team has to guess the word. And then in every word, if you see here, we follow the Lannang orthography of Lannang archive. So we have here Anya, and we followed, of course, the writing system. And thank you to TLA for making this happen. And then we have the English version in case like the word might mean different things. So this one, we really wanted to make sure that even younger folks could really enjoy a Lannang board game, but not just with their fellow peers, but even with their amas. So we actually also played this with Auntie Tessie, and she enjoyed it. So yeah, so we have these, and the strategy is you have to be really good at connecting similar words in Hokkien. So for example, let's say you have two words. Let's say Anya and Ati, and you want people to choose the word. You have to give words related to Anya Ati. So I would say Nongdi, Ketim. So you have to find ways to also connect the contexts together. So this is trying to, of course, like build our ability to be able to like connect these words. So let's move on. Yes. So I'm kind of out of the game mechanics. I think you've seen it a while ago. So we have this 5x5 here. So these are the words here, and so each one has to be able to guess like what are the words that will what do you call this? Each team is given a map, and this is the map that you have to follow. So the one who's providing the clue has to be able to guess the words, and then the one providing the clue has to be able to give a Lánnang-uè word. If you guys want to sample and play after the symposium, please join us because we're going to have a gameplay like casually later. Alright, so can I move on? Yeah, so each of this game inclusion has 400 coded words of Lánnang-uè with English, 8 child of owners, cards, 2 bosses, 2 aunties, 2 uncles, 2 customs, and so on and so forth. So this is our characters that was really based out of some different comics as characters. We move on. Alright, so as you can see here, these are actually like the scenarios that we were able to play last year, and if you can see, we really have a lot of people who enjoyed it from different like age groups and all, and we even had one, I think, level where we played it together with advanced Hokkien players. So this is open to any Hokkien, like what do you call this? Hokkien speakers is like difficulty level. So that's why we really wanted to do this board game, was to actually be accepting of every kind of Hokkien player and just really make it fun. Just to reiterate what Will said, that we wanted to bring it beyond just our usual books and literature. So can I move on? So this is an example of like had we were playing at our first iteration. So it is like a really big team play. Alright, let's move on. So yeah, we hope that you'll be part of our community development. So I would like to, of course, let you know that right now this is our current special pricing. It's around $299 per game. Yes, the production is definitely on the way for Young Wars, and please support this project because this is really close to my heart, and of course to encourage families not to fight, but actually to play together as a family. So thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. So I am Figueroa, and I'm a fresh graduate of PLA Application Design, and I'm ready to be here today Hokkien Huddle, which is the other board game that you might have seen at the back of it. Next step.
So a bit about me, I'm quite a crafty person. So this is what it looks like. It involves a lot of, creativity and design. And I'll be explaining more about it later. But I also wanted to share an your craft or project I had. Come in the next step. It's a Wong's Legacy comic book for children. So it's very interactive. I like working with my hands, crafty things like moving calendars, moving tables. So it's giving Chinese restaurant. So I wanted to make it interactive so that kids could like play with it and not just simply learn. Oh yeah. So let's go back. Move to the next slide, please. So Hokkien Pada is an interactive board game that aims to encourage the daily use of conversational Hokkien and Lannang-uè for younger generations of the Chinese Filipino Malacan community. Next slide. So before everything else, I want to share a bit of how everything began and why this game. So next slide, please. So this all started because of my solo thesis project. Yes, our thesis is a solo project, and unlike other thesis, it's just paper and other things. We have to do everything on our own, from the research paper, the surveys, interviews. But then you also have to execute it. You have to design something, create it, and test it with the people that you're targeting. So for topic brainstorming, next, right? So we were told to identify a social issue that could be possibly solved with a design intervention. So I started to feel like, what if problems had changed? What do I personally struggle with? Because I wanted to feel connected to myself. So while other people might be pointing, they were thinking of something transportation problems or accessibility or the disabled. And at some point, I actually also thought of like, what if they make it really like Anna? But then as a Chinese Filipino individual, I started thinking about like, what do I struggle? And I was thinking, man, I wish that I knew how to speak Hokkien. Like from my personal experience of friends and the other family gathering, and these relatives who the close meet speak to me in Hokkien, ask you lots of questions, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, won't help you. So I just also wish that I knew what they were talking about. And sometimes I think it's also good skill we have to talk to other people without those outside to understanding what they're saying. So with this own desire of mine, I want to learn the language. It's really what drove me to start this project. Just I thought it would also force me to at least learn some of the Hokkien, since I wouldn't be able to create anything that I can't, right? So yeah. So next slide. After establishing this topic, nice to do the research and my data collection as to understand what is the community need and what existing tools there are. So we identified the issue to be that Hokkien is declining, especially now that under the English are prioritized and more safety as the foundation, especially at Gilda's prior. So I actually have like a survey where they thanks Filipino parents to also interrogate some people. And because of that, think that they use Hokkien to connect with older generations. So the not really obvious that like, oh, innocent really use any part. But my child can learn Mandarin, you don't use Hokkien, it's useless. But there are also other parents that they wanted their children, their Hokkien, but they don't really know how to speak that. But they want to connect with their roots, their culture as a and for the gap also, there's also a gap between the generations. So we both try to conceptualize like what tool could be made to address this. And this is how we landed one example. This question, how might we foster intergenerational relations through Hokkien language learning tools for digital youth? So not only are we trying to solve the declining exchange of Hokkien and language, but also bridging generations because of the gap in these language styles. So our grandparents, older generations, their core values Hokkien, while the younger generations of us use more English. So so I had to think of ways to make it interactive and triable and engaging, mostly targeting children, but also setting vertical proposal with adults. And this is why I decided for full or day because it could be faith and understood across generations. So it's about perfectly for grandparents or it's not too complicated, but at the same time it's one way for children, right? So next slide. So these are just some of the digital design that I'm doing. It's a mix of using Procreate, Adobe Illustrator, and the design. So this is part of the execution process now. But apart from this, not have steps. I had to execute it physically as well. So let's be in my room. You cannot walk properly in it because there's a lot of pieces of paper and cardboard everywhere. So I had to design everything from scratch. I had to get ink printed, and for other pieces naman, since it's just a thesis project of like 1 to 2 copies now, I couldn't really mass produce it, so I had to be resourceful and find my own ways. So for example, like the box, I think was the most challenging part of it. I had to craft it by myself, using chipboard, using a paper, and whatnot. So it's actually just the Farnell disc box that I crafted the inside so it could exactly fit the pieces. Where do you go? At the time, I also tested the game with my hard and content. So on the left here, you could see it with some faculties. On the so that I could know what works and what doesn't work for them, and then adjust it from there. So I actually had multiple prototypes, but what you see at the back is the final one. Next. So my target audience, Chinese Filipino youth, so mostly for children and adolescents, they're fundamental years of their lives. So I think it's really different when you start learning the language from when you were young, compared to like you start learning it now. It's easier for them to pick it up. And then of course, our grandparents, since they're the ones who are fluent in it and will help in teaching the children community. Next slide. So these are my project objectives to encourage children to learn kung kailan maritime the interaction and repetition, to create a shared experience for language learning in a moment of fun, and to foster meaningful communication between generations. So now let's move on to how does the game even hurt. Next. So these are the different components that our run use, but you can better understand them. So this is the final prototype I designed. The box packaging, the game board itself, and the instruction guide, and then like a guide. The player pieces, so this can be played from 2 to 6 players, and the players are like placed on like family members, so there's like a Nangdong and Nambari parents kids. And then the card deck, so there's 4, and there are channels, tasks, and speed cards. And then we have the lies and the tokens. So because Hokkien is primarily spoken and heard rather than written and read, I also created in the website the star response to each of the card-a-roms, and these have one word recordings and other additional words to help. So if you want to check it out, you can scan the QR code. So keep in mind it's best viewed on the tablet or desktop and an area here. So this is just a prototype, so we're going to progress. On the forward might put a bit crumpled up, but yes, so each of the parents have recordings. Since though it uses the Lannang the main problem to those here that they have is like children don't really know how to visit Kritaski. So I wanted to create a stream that would be able to guide them on how to say it. And this case also would allow them to learn these words when they're in, even if they're not in with it. Next slide, please. So for the game mechanics, so for each stage so first each player to draw 3 task cards. This is basically the main goal he has for up to date, is to accomplish his tasks. So for each turn, I roll the dice and include spaces, and they might land out spaces that would knock them through speaking of, or like draw those different cards. And then they actually land out the stations, and that's where they advantage in the tasks. So once you finish all your tasks, you play it. So next. So these are just some of the incentives or like reward systems and there are games. So if you collect 5 little theater speaker and draft cards, you can jump to any station of your choice and complete a task regardless of whose turn it is. So mapapalis yung finish mo ng task. So I created this because not all space on the game has the prompts. So some are blank. But then in the first round of my testing, the child is actually happy to land on a planet. Like, hey, I don't need to speak up yet because some of them are hesitant. They already know how to speak it. So they end up happy that they don't need to practice. But then that kind of erases the point of practicing confidence. So I wanted to create this incentive. And it worked because at the second round, they're actually now sad to land on the blank and happy to land on the top. Which is a win for me because it then makes them practice warm-up yet one year. And that for fun lang din, collision of players on the board means each player draws a chance card, which is just test. So next slide, please. So here are just some sample prompts where the task ask how much it costs per speak card, saving your confidence. And then for chance, 2-3 spaces for away. And then for the interact, ask the player where they study referred. So this can be where you actually play since when you ask someone where this word, not everyone will have the same math. So it already rushing to practice what you know and help each other also. So I wanted to create something that would allow users to speak using the language and engaging their own conversations, their own input. And if the child really has no idea of how to answer it, this is really where the present fluent family member knows in English. They end up naturally teaching the child through the help of the board game. So it's not really the board game, she can play, oh, eggs, apple. What is that? It's part of conversation. So, next time. So, what does so first of all, it creates a space for families to speak of their own. And I think having that opportunity itself is already a great start because there's something that would push to the practice. So I think other young people experience this also, but I myself, I'm kind of shy to use the little Hokkien that I know because I write myself and make mistakes around others. But really, the only way you learn is to use this and to practice it. So it's supposed to create an environment where children feel comfortable trying to attempt and speak, feeling that they make mistakes, and most importantly, something that makes them even want to learn it in the first place, not because someone is forcing them to do so. So instead of something that teaches in like a module format, like that, it gives you an open-ended talk so that we can actually converse with players of the game. So it's not something that just teaches you vocabulary, but it creates an experience where you naturally pick up the vocabulary yourself along the way. And because of this, the game could also be played again and again because there won't be two exact gameplays or two exact answers every single time. So the prompts were mainly open-ended and it allows conversations that the players themselves build on their own. And because Hokkien has possible variations of different translations, it was challenging to think of a way to accommodate that. And that's why I created the mechanics in a way that would allow for players and keeping it open-ended for them to converse. So you learn from each other, not just writing it yourself. And with that also, of course, it creates a connection between the players. It allows campus to bond and learn at the same time. So next, please. So just a photo for my physics exhibit. So ultimately, the sport game isn't a 100% solution to learning Hokkien completely. The language cannot be learned if it's not practiced. So creating this project really challenged me and allowed me to learn a lot, not just in design and Hokkien, but also how powerful language is and how interested they use this to learn Hokkien. They might just be scared of useful or they don't know where to start. And the same goes for parents and grandparents. They want their children to learn, but they don't know how to teach it. So I hope Hokkien becomes a way to start that. It's not meant to be a replacement for our grandparents and older generations, but it's meant to be a tool to create opportunities for conversations that animate child to start. So next again. So yeah, they use this skill building and interested in learning Hokkien. You just don't already care how to start. So these are just some help just from my exhibit and how it was presented, along with another questions. Next guide. So along with the board game, I also made stickers. So these were like stickers. Sadly, I don't have any with me right now. These are just different characters and some speech bubbles with Hokkien lyrics as you see guys. Thanks. So I guess and this language is the foundation of communication, but for that it carries an identity, culture, and connection. So not only just talking about create a space with the language to be spoken, but it also creates space to have relationship with secure. And I hope Hokkien Bundle is one step people's conversation to thank you.
Next slide.
All right, let's give each and every speaker another round of applause, please. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna have a quick Q&A portion. So I check right now, by the way, it's 11:01. So we still have 15 to 20 minutes na Q&A. So may invite all the speakers here up on stage ngayon. And Will, Misha, and Jaime. Siguro, tanong po sa ating participants right now, dun sa tatlong nakita nyo, either the books or the games, taas ang kamay, sino gusto maglaro later? Available ba yung Hokkien right now? Meron kami. Taas ang kamay, sino gusto maglaro later? Yan, Hokkien Bottle. Next is Young Wars from Misha. Taas ang kamay. And then, sino meron ng kopya ng mga Lannang stories natin? Eh, or sino gusto bumili at this point? Yeah, for marketing strategies. Alright, so at this point, meron po bang mga questions to any of our speakers? Yeah, can I hear from anyone? From this group po siguro, one this side. Can I hear? Just raise of hands. Baka meron kayong curious na question related to the development of the books and stories or dun sa mismong games. Maybe the mechanics or gusto nyo revise. Baka may ganun kayong mga questions. Anyone? Here on this side, meron po ba? Huwag kayong mahiya. Wala. Siguro for the meantime, I would like to ask our speakers though. Yung length of the, gano'n kadali yung development, no? Each of the stories that you come up with.
I started.
Well, go back.
Okay. I started 30 seconds now, so I guess that's like half a year or good a year and a half ago. So from 34th year, and I just got.
I see. So what's good thing perhaps kasi merong deadline din sa school, no? Kaya ganun yung duration. But come the time na you want to further improve pa meron pa pang ganun mga further developments for this.
They would want trail and all that shit.
Alright, great. Thanks, JD. How about Misha?
So I think ours is from the first symposium, which was 2024. Since I think properly a lot of it, some volunteers with the TL, the Lannang-uè recovery, and it did be tight, and since all of us are coming time, yeah, definitely our time is definitely a lot longer than hers because we don't have school deadlines anymore. But praise God, we made this work. So that's why now it is something. Hello. Hello. Okay. So yeah, we play this actually every year for Lannang Symposium, except for this year only, right? Yeah, we play.
Siguro later na lang may separate the session dun sa likod ko.
Very cachet resort. So yeah, we play this every year, and I think this is the first that it finally has a cut.
Oh yes, or
Okay, mental.
So for Lannang Stories, diba, I think we started in 2023. There were a lot of versions, like draft versions of this. The actual process, I think it took around 1.5 years.
Okay.
Because of the illustration. The illustration is not easy to do. It's also hard to find an equal who are willing to do this for a reduced price. You know, exploitation, but more of like, you find the people with passion that can work with our budget. All right.
Makes sense naman, especially when it comes to artists, no? Everybody would like to support na lang siguro the AI, but that's also quite, if you know what it is, more controversial. So this the support for the artists, right?
And it's definitely not AI. Like, yeah, your illustrations we drawn by hand, and it's also whenever you buy this, all of that goes back, all the profit, everything goes back to the development for work, which is really going back in the community in the end.
And seeing the outcome itself, by the way, kasi diba you featured some of the places in Piloto. And I live in that place, no? So parang way na-achieve nila yung yung character. So that's thing I would like to appreciate that one.
Actually, the first book is in Pinoto, that's the main Chinatown. In the second book, if you look at the page 3 or 4, it's actually set in Panawe in QC, I think. So it's the other Chinatown in Manila.
Right.
But we really want to bring it to other places, like in Cebu, in Davao, and Iloilo, based on the stories that we receive. So if you I have an open call for stories. So if you have a story that you want to be told, we are willing to have and accept that, and would like to hire someone to draw on it. Yeah, or something like that. So at least that's our land. Yeah, we want more stories. We want the stories from different Lannang communities in the Philippines, or among Lannang communities in the Philippines.
All right, awesome. So at this point, then again, do you have any questions from our representatives? Kung walang questions, for example, how about those who are able to secure a copy of any of these. Can I hear any reviews or how did you find the books, no? Any, the board games, yes, any review, tamad, can I hear from anyone? Raise of hands, please. Nakita ko may nagtaas kamay kanina, nakabili na. So, how did you find it? Para natin meron konting feedback from our developers, no? Dun sa ating mga works na really intending to develop and further expand our Lánnang-uè.
I guess what we're asking is feedback, right? Equals
Yes,
feedback, right, on the books. Because we already have feedback, and I think you mentioned some of the cons and pros.
Yes.
But we really want this to be a bigger thing. So right now is your opportunity to contribute to the discussion. What do you guys want? What do you guys think can be right? What's your, to make this project a bigger thing and more national thing, not just regional? Yeah.
Anyone, guys? All right, sir. Day 3.
I just wanted to be say how grateful I am for you guys taking the work to do stuff like this, you working and your folks to get try to get kids more interested in Lánnang-uè now. I guess it's not really feedback, but just kind of a question, kind of just said that stuff. Most of these are about explicitly about Lánnang-uè. I wonder if in the future you guys might have projects that are more like just incidentally about that incidentally include Chinese instead Lánnang-uè instead of making it like the main focus. Because maybe the kids might start saying, "Oh, I don't want to play that game. That's the Lánnang game," or something like that.
I think it's something we can. Hello. I think it's something we can consider. I understand that you're saying that your concern is kids might not be that interested because it's just fully Lánnang-uè. Why don't it be Lánnang-uè, let's say in Disney? Is that what you're trying to say? Like, there's certain interest? Okay, can I clarify it?
Sorry, no. Maybe not just like, or ito lang, how would you go about like incorporating Lánnang-uè into or is it appropriate even to incorporate Lánnang-uè into projects that are not like explicitly for it?
Right. So yeah, I think that's one of our missions actually, the reason we have this symposium is you want to put Lánnang-uè outside the house. Because that's the reality right now. The language is dying because it's always the what do we call this? Like the misconception is that, oh, let's be a whole language. We don't use it outside. That's why we said our children will Mandarin, schools that teach Mandarin, right? But that's exactly how a community dies. That's exactly how the language, the heritage dies. Is people start to think, oh no, community don't read it. It's not as we have it's can't burn money out of it. You don't need it, right? That's exactly how the community dies. There's a reason why we exist because our belief is that we need to use Lánnang-uè as many doings as possible. That's why we try to incorporate Lánnang-uè days. Even in our movement addresses, we try to include this. Even in national anthem, we try to include some Lánnang-uè because we want to normalize it. We want to make it more and more normal. Actually, in the first symposium, there was a proposal like, what can we make Lánnang-uè a ethnic minority language in the Philippines? The concept of Lannang is arguably different from the Chinese. Yes, we call it Chinese, but it's Chinese in bubble codes, right? It's not exactly Chinese. It's it's ours. It's kind of a mix. Sorry, it's the Chinoy, right? It's that the blended construct, being Lannang, just us, right? Anyway, my point is we really want Lánnang-uè to be used in as many domains as possible, right? So like, and we try to also have like TikTok videos, right? YouTube channels. We try to top some clips in Lannang-uè, right? But yeah, so we're trying our best. It's definitely an uphill battle, I think. But I think all of us here, Misha, Davey, are working really hard. I think even some of you guys have ideas, really worry about them to, to make this a concern.
All right.
Maybe I could add. So I think you agree with Will with regards to the way we treat Lannang, but so we really wanted to focus in not just because, okay, it's the language of our parents, but it's the language that we use. We are doing our hobbies, our interests. So that's why when we did this, we focused first on what do people want? What are people truly interested? We don't focus on like, oh, we just want to make people learn Lánnang-uè. There has been some, I think, recommendations for polyglots that the best way to continuously learn the language and actually use it in a community is to use it in the interest of our children. So when kids, and of course, once upon a night kids, like something, let's incorporate Lannang. Let's not just, put Lánnang-uè as a way to just give advice, values, or even maybe scold our future generation.
It's kind of interesting because, like, I'm not sure if you guys experience it, at least for my parent, for my family, I always use Lánnang-uè. Ever since I was a kid, I was pretty taught to speak in Lánnang-uè. But it's kind of weird because I know my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, they use Lánnang-uè with each other, their peers, their brothers, their sisters. In my case, I only use Lánnang-uè with my parents and grandparents, but when I come to my peers, it's English only. And it's kind of, I don't know, I feel awkward using Lánnang-uè. Like if I come to you Lánnang-uè, if you use it, that doesn't feel quite normal, I think. But that's what we're trying to change, right? Basically, we don't want it to be a generational thing, like only like Lánnang-uè is being passed down, but it's not passed around, passed down. That's a dangerous recipe for a community to die,
Reggie.
Yeah, and I think it's really about creating the environment for them to like learn and use it. Like I'm just simply learn like from a book you read, but also like, creating an experience with them to actually use it different art. So that's why we want carbotype folks like play because we play is like narlock, but then play quite hop and is quite different. So we want to kind of like push music and like the situations of the art.
All right. So towards mainstreaming Lánnang-uè in lights of maybe for the younger ones, anything that's trendy nowadays, now let's try to incorporate it one way or the other. The advancement of our language. So maybe one more question, though. Yeah, sir.
First of all, I'd like to say I really appreciate the work of these projects, and I also really appreciate the many different art styles that are used that are really eye-catchy. Of course, we know about the Soja comics on Facebook, but it's also great to see the illustration for the storybook and the pocket adult. My question would be, if these materials greatly use the Lannang cartography, and sometimes have the English translation. And this kind of goes back to actually last time I was discussing the Wong other. We talked about the 500 downs and Hokkien. And she actually had a hard time believing that, especially for the pronouns, like did, doing, and stuff. She thought those weren't real characters. Okay? So I was kind of wondering if maybe in the future you could also integrate the characters, or maybe why you chose to have the orthography and then the English translation and not the characters the materials that you.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Can I get your name?
Joshua Wiboba.
Yeah. Yeah, Joshua.
So yeah, that's what one of the deliberations for when we're creating Lannang choreography. We actually did a survey of some sort. And what we found was that people were not really willing, but there's definitely demand for Chinese characters, like Kandi, right? The characters in Kokya. But then a lot of people are kind of like complaining, then it's very hard to learn. There's no time to learn the characters. So we, at least for us, we're adopting this kind of like tier approach. That if you look at, let's say, examples in Taiwan, for example, when they teach the elementary school, from elementary school, they start with the they start with the phonetics. They don't even start with the characters yet. They start with how it sounds like. So I guess that's kind of like the approach we're taking. We want, because the problem was, or at least the misconception in the community is that Lánnang-uè is only an oral language, right? That's the problem we have to solve first. So the most efficient way to go about that, but now have to spend too much time teaching characters, start with something that's already familiar to people, which is romanization, like period, right? Or letters. That's easier to catch on first, right? And then after that, hopefully, like, I don't know if you guys have already heard about it, but we are currently developing textbooks in that Lánnang-uè, and then Lánnang-uè characters, Handi, and then Mandarin, and then Pinyin, and then English. We're kind of adopt that format for our textbooks, right? So we're going to start with Lannang choreography first, and then we're going to kind of build on that. So it's that we're not saying that we don't want any characters, that there's definitely demand for that. But if we're talking about practicality, I don't think people have the time. With people in outside the design sphere, like China, Singapore, you have the environment for. Sorry, you need to have an environment for writing these characters, and a lot of us we only have one or two subjects in schools in Chinese, right? It's not enough time to learn how to write characters and at the same time also know how to speak, especially the one that you use Lánnang-uè and Mandarin. That's even becomes impossible. Right? So I guess those are considerations.
So maybe I can add. So I think what we're talking about is I think in a more conservative style, which I think we do have a dictionary, at least actually be like produced by Barvin. So currently he's been doing that. You can actually approach him right now and check it out. Yes, Marvin. So this way, so he has a dictionary. Yes, he has a Hokkien Mob dictionary. It's actually online, so you can actually look for like words with their characters. Actually, that is done by them. But you know, he's doing this alone, so that's why we are really trying to support him. He's actually doing everything, even managing the website and maintaining the characters and even considering the different variations from different regional. So there is that part. So he's handling the conservative style. I think TIA's position is just a bit more like, which one?
Our position is that we believe again, Lánnang-uè in all its forms. We take in from conservative Hokkien, but we also celebrate other forms of Hokkien in the Philippines as used by people. Anyway, just since we're talking about Hokkien Hub, I think in your programs, there's a link in one of the online resources. There's a link to the website, HokkienHub.versil.map. I think that was the website name. It's on a dictionary. It's free. And let's say you say, oh, I don't want the word for water. So you just type water, and it says Tui. It gives you the Lánnang choreography. It also gives you the character, Shui character. Right. So I think it's really useful, and lots of exciting things that are going to happen. Okay, so I think there's another question at the back. Let's have one last question before we head into our lunch break.
I guess you heard about this position you with Chaya, and then went to the restaurant. I see the waiter. He said, 这个. And then the waiter said, 你要这个. He said, 这个是什么? Because they didn't really say that. You know, not.
Sorry, it's kind of soft. We cannot hear it.
Like, there's these two Chinois who went to China with the restaurant, and they ask for the menu, and they say, 这个, and the waiter said, 你要这个? And they said, no, 这个是什么? Because they couldn't read the Chinese right. So, I said it longer, but no one laughed. Anyway, this is very good. I was wondering if we'd also make one for food. You see, the food is when you go to the restaurant and you don't know how to order. So, when are you gonna make one for food?
This week, like maybe related wood
Food or no? Yeah,
materials.
yeah. So to focus on food because it's another topic. It's like cuisines and all.
I can probably answer that. I do have a. So my family loves to cook, and I have an aunt who did bake the recipe. Well, I think we're already that, but we haven't any delved beyond just like the identity part yet. Like it's something we can take in as feedback. Cause so right now, let's say for India bars, we were choosing words. We were choosing words related to Xiangli. So we wanted to, of course, like incorporate that. But I think it's something that can be extended to even the materials that we are doing. I think, right?
And then also, I thank you for that wonderful suggestion. As we're actually thinking about topics, we may probably send out a survey for the textbook project that we're learning early on. So we're kind of like getting a range of topics, and I think food could be one of them. Like, how do you order? Yeah, so it's like, how do we order food in a restaurant, in a Taiwan, in a restaurant, right? How to do it? For going, yeah. So these are definitely more focused on the practical aspect of it as well, and not the traditional. We're gonna analyze this poem in Chinese. I mean, that can go after, but we really want to focus more, at least for the textbook project, we want to focus on more practical stuff, like how do you pick someone, things like that. So we start from simple and then we go thematically, like how do we bargain, right? This is too expensive. Yeah, a shortlet, like make it cheaper, things like that. So we're definitely taking all of these into account. Oh my God, yes.
For my YC, it's not explicitly about food, but I did kind of revolve it around what Chinoy school usually use at their lives. So my stations, they involve it. There's the restaurant, there's a market. Grammar, it's all home and school. So look at the data to pretty good usage. So for example, the price of the market, like asking for a cheaper price, asking for a discount, and then the restaurant is there asking what to order or asking a waiter for water, things like that.
All right, so at this point, time check is 11:25. So we're gonna wrap up this session. Let's give again our speakers a round of applause for our wondering efforts. And thank you also for your feedback for the development of all these stuff. So up then is time check.